Ladies and gentlemen, howdy. Welcome to another episode of The Jobe Show. My name is Evan Jobe. I hope you all are doing well. I am not. Let me explain why. So before I get into today's somewhat heavy subject matter, I would like to read you an X thread that I wrote on March 15th, 2026. Next time you're feeling small, as if you're shouting up into the heavens is but a whisper, I want you to think about this. Your humanity, your body, your mind, and your soul are literally formed by stardust. This is not a metaphor. You literally would not exist without the death of the first stars in our universe, billions of years ago. As those early stars ceased to give their light, their death would disperse a cosmic palette of new material, new elements that would go on to form new, more complicated star systems. From the very beginning of our universe, as the graveyard of stars marched onward, enough newly minted raw materials would eventually birth our solar system. After billions of years, the universe had finally created enough of the elements necessary to create you, creating the only known spark of consciousness in the vastness of the void. One could argue, as I often do, that perhaps having been made of literal stardust, having been born from the death of starlight, endowed in each of us is a plea from the beginning of time to make the most of the starlight within us all. Thermonuclear fusion-powered engines of ancient stars, physically more massive than our brains could ever comprehend or imagine, collapsed in order for you to be here today. In my opinion, that's an obligation to be anything but small. That's a mandate to earn the stardust in your bones. Be big with your stardust. You don't seem that small to me. Now, why did I just read you a 5-tweet X thread about your bones containing stardust? Well, I read to you that 5-tweet X thread about your bones containing stardust because your bones literally contain stardust. This idea has been a massive fascination of mine for a long time now. And I've written many notes to self or journal entries about this topic. And this is kind of the first time that I'd ever sat down to be like, okay, how can I concisely communicate this idea to a broader audience, right? What's the easiest way to communicate this idea? And then lo and behold, I wrote a 5-tweet X thread about it. So there you go. I have now found a way to concisely communicate that idea to you, that your bones are, once again, literally made of stardust, my dude. So why is it important that your bones may or may not contain stardust? Well, it's important because I believe, personally, this is just a personal opinion, that I think the universe is calling for all of us right now. Like I just feel it in my chest. I feel this like magnetic pull from like beyond Earth, just this like, I don't know, man. Like not a schizophrenic voice, you know what I mean? But like as close to that as you could get without it being like a schizophrenic voice, but like it's more of just this like, I just feel this tug, this like universal tug, right? And I feel like that the universe is calling upon all of us to make the most of the stardust within our bones because we need it now perhaps more than we ever have. Right now, humanity's collective consciousness is at war. And the fate of this war is still very much up in the air. And it's of my personal belief that if enough of us can get on the side of good, right, and of wanting better for the masses of humanity, then it's of my opinion that we might actually be able to win this war at this time. We haven't. We've like literally... We do this. This is a thing that humans do. I don't know if you've noticed this because you're probably not a loser incel like me who's like watched hours upon hours upon hours of history podcasts and who have read history books. And I mean, like I just obsessively have like studied the past to try to figure out like, okay, what happened then? How did that get us to where we are now? And then like, what does that say about where we're going? Like it's been a humongous obsession of mine for a very long time. And I've noticed that there's this pattern that humanity tends to go through where we have an idea. We have an idea about how we should all live with one another. And then we like carry on developing that idea and employing that idea in our everyday real lives. And then we make something beautiful out of it. Look at the United States of America. Look at democracy, what democracy's done. Look at, the founding of this country and the revolutions that have been fought all over the globe that have seeded the current position that we all live under, right? We've made so many beautiful things out of this idea. This idea, that contains capitalism and a free market society and representation for all and the right to say whatever you want to say, even if people disagree with you and might be willing to kill you for what you say. You should be allowed to say what you want to say. Some of these ideas we've brought to life, and it's been absolutely beautiful. I mean, what this country has been for mankind for a long time has been very beautiful, even in all of its ugly warts and flaws and disgustingness. And what we're watching now is the inevitable result of any ideology, in my opinion, which is that when an ideology reaches the initial goals that the ideology set out to capture, what do you do then? This is always my problem with people who try to argue to me that we need to kill ideas. That's a bad idea. No one should be allowed to say that, and we must make sure that nobody can think this way and God, they're bad. Here's my issue with that, right? Which is you can't kill an idea. The only way that you beat an idea, a bad idea, is with a better idea. You don't just nuke ideas. They don't just go away. There's an issue that happens when an ideology reaches the initial set of goals, when it accomplishes these things, which is that why would you want to stop the train from moving forward? The train has done some great things, and it's brought all these beautiful things around the world, and everybody's benefited from this train. So then when the train gets to its destination, you're like, dude, this train's been such a party. Let's keep going. Build track in front of us. Let's keep it rolling. And what you effectively do with an ideology that reaches its initial goals is you then you move the goalpost. You go from here to up. Goalpost has now been moved. And you just continue to do that over and over and over and over and over again. And so what's happening right now is human civilization has reached one of these goalposts. We've done some really cool things, but there's a problem. Anytime the world comes together to create the rules that we all live under, to provide security and to create reality, because reality ultimately is just a hallucination of our collective consciousness. So anytime we figure out a way to draw a little box around reality and be there you go, there's reality. This is what it is. Here's a little box and you can buy it. It's $19.99. Anytime that we have done that, we create a game. This is what rules do, is they create a game. And some people are way better at playing that game than you are. Some people are so good at playing this game of life that is imposed upon all of us by the powers that be. Some people are so good at playing it that they then break the atmosphere. They break through the atmosphere and they find themselves in space looking down upon all of us plebs. And then they get bored because you beat the game. So what do you want to do when you beat the game? You want to create a new game, my dude. This is what everybody who's ever beaten the game has wanted to do is, you know what? This game's actually kind of boring. Let's create another one. That's what happens with the changing world order. This is a cyclical thing that has happened throughout all of human civilization. And it's done some really neat, this is a really neat quirk of humanity that happened. It's brought us so many great inventions and innovations and ways to make society prosper and to not, completely fall apart at the seams. But there's a little bit of an issue with this current game that we're playing, my dude, which is that in this current software update of the game, in this current update of the rules, right, this rule package that the whole world operates under, it has favored one particular way to organize a whole bunch of people, and that's called empire. We've been doing it for a couple thousand years now, and the problem with empire is for people who live near the center of power of this empire, and for people who live under the protection of the empire, and for people who get to participate in the empire is an awesome thing. It's such a good time, the coolest party of all time. But for everyone that's outside of the empire and has to look into the party and be like, man, that's a cool party. I wish I could join that party. For all of those people, they really don't like the empire. And the world outside of the empire tends to suffer quite a lot, to a lot of horrible, horrible things. And empire, in this particular version of humanity, empire, this version of our software update that contains the idea of empire, it has a problem, which is that it has a reward system that compels people to beat the living crap out of the game, the set of rules that we're all living under. And those people, they coalesce and they form a shadowy cabal of powerful people and organizations. And then they just continue to steer society in whichever way they may choose on a given Sunday. And again, this is unfortunate news for anybody who doesn't get to enjoy the party of the empire. This is why humanity has to come together to figure out a new software update. We have to figure out a way to move beyond this empire thing. Because just like I said earlier, you're not going to kill empire, my dude. You're not going to kill the idea of it. The idea has been around for a long time. It's worked very well. It's enriched a lot of people. You're not just going to be like, hey, yeah, so you you don't get to do empire anymore. That's not the way this is going to work. The only way this is going to work, the only way humanity is going to break out of this cycle and do the next thing and do the next big thing and like be better and like stronger and like prosper, right? The only way we're going to accomplish that is if we create a better idea than empire. We have to all come together and we have to put aside this left-right nonsense and all. Like, we have to figure out a better software update, my dude. I don't know where I heard this from originally. If I heard this from somewhere, and I'll just give it open source, right? It's not mine. I don't. But like, this is this thing I've been saying to friends and coworkers and my family members. They want you looking left and right to keep you from looking up and down. Again, they want you looking left and right to keep you from looking up and down. That's the game. Up and down is the game. Up and down. That's the game. Not this left and right nonsense. None of these people in positions of political power actually believe any of the things that they blabber into one of these and tell you, right? They don't actually believe these things. They're actors. They're playing a role. They're playing a role, and they will tell you whatever you want to hear to get elected and to get the position and to become the president of the United States. That's the way this thing works. And the up there people, the people up there, they like this system, this left, right. They like this system because it keeps us all fighting at each other instead of going, wait a minute, what's up there, my dude? What are you doing up there? That's why the Epstein scandal is such a monumental thing that has happened, because it's one of the first times that the mass public is getting to like peek through the curtain and be like, what are y'all doing in there? Well, looks like you guys are having a little ball. That's not fair. I want in the what are you all doing in there? And obviously, I'm not talking about like, I'm not metaphorically and be like, yeah, no, people want to like do awful things that should. Of course not. Of course not. Like, nobody wants to participate in the crimes that those people have done. That's not what I mean. I mean the part of like, those people run things. And your life sucks like my life sucks. And we're all kind of sick and tired of those people running things, okay? Because we live in this system of consumerism. And consumerism, not mine. This is from a guy. I saw a guy that I've been watching a lot of on YouTube. His channel's Predictive History on YouTube. Professor Zhang, I think that's it. Zhang, I don't know. Jiang, I think is how you spell it. Please go look him up. Real great dude. But he said something that I found very fascinating, which is that consumerism is the perfection of slavery. And oh my Lord have mercy, that hit me like a ton of bricks. Did it, dude? Because he's so right. Like, he could not be more right about that. Because slavery had problems for the up there people, right? The people that get to run things. Slavery, like actual, like put you in chains slavery, that had problems for the up there people, which is that we were prone to revolt and we were prone to taking those people up there and dragging them through the streets. And we were prone to be a problem. And so the people up there that like instituted slavery for a really long time, they're like, gee whiz, we really like the productivity that's coming out of this system, but like, God, all these people are so unhappy about it and they just don't like it and like, ooh, ethical concern. Like, and so what they did was they went, you know what? I have a better idea. What if you give them enough of the things that they think is important so that they think they're living a normal life, but in reality, they're still enslaved to us, the shareholders? Because we live in the world of the shareholder, my dude. And if you're not a shareholder, you are underneath the road that will be paved, my guy. And so that's what has happened, is that they found a way to do slavery in a way that the people in slavery don't think that they're enslaved. That's what consumerism is. It has created a situation in which you are enslaved, and yet your whole life is designed in such a way that you don't really think that you're enslaved. Because because you don't see physical chains on your arms, you assume I'm a free person. I get to do whatever I want. No, you don't. Your whole life, your entire life is geared toward paying bills. Your whole life is that people own stuff, the owners, because they own you. That's a George Carlin thing. George Carlin is my favorite comedian of all time. He's a philosopher, and he's a man who's inspired me a heck of a lot. That guy had this like famous rant where he talked about how those people, they're owners. They own you, my dude. And they do. And they do. And then you just pay them. You just pay them for the stuff that they own, because you have to have the things that they own to live. In order to live your life, in order to wake up and shower and brush your teeth and do all the stuff and take out the dog and blah, da, 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 and like put food on the table and cook stuff, you have to pay somebody to do all of those things. But not only do you have to pay somebody, you have to buy from like some shadowy big like corporation that doesn't even have like, there's not a person that you like associate with that place. It's just a logo and some big company. You have to give them money for some price that they artificially, like they just decide it's worth this much because this place says it's that, when in reality all the places that say this thing costs that amount of money, they're all in cahoots together, and they all get to decide, I think if we charge X amount of money, people won't flip out, so let's charge X amount of money. That's the way this thing works, my dude. Your entire life you have been conditioned and brainwashed and molded to be a specialized cog of the empire. You have been bred like a GMO laborer to perfectly support the foundation of this empire. But guess what, dude? The owners found another whoopsies with this software update of theirs. This, like, we get to run the world this way, and we get to create, and this is how your life works. And this is, if you want to live, you got to they found another issue, which is, you know what the whole problem with having all these organic machines do all these things for us is? They're organic. They're still people, my guy. Oh my goodness. The next level is we need to get rid of the people because people are a problem. That is what the AI war is all about. Just so you know, a little information on my background, a big part of I was the IT director for a investment management firm for nearly 4 years. And a big part of the reason that I resigned from my position was because I felt like AI was an existential threat. And in this weird era where ChatGPT becomes public and like all of a sudden businesses are rushing to like adopt AI and to have AI and everything, I found myself working on AI constantly, and AI this and integrate AI and and watching the news and thinking about these ethical issues. And it got to be something that made me severely depressed dealing with these things. It was a big part of the reason why I had to resign. But anyways, what the owners want now, what they want to do next, what the direction in which they want to steer the boat, right, is just like how slavery had problems. Guess what, my dude? They figured out, oh crap, this consumerism thing that we created, that thing has problems too. We need to axe that thing. We need to fix that thing. The owners, they found a new problem with their software update on slavery, this consumerism thing. They're like, yeah, see, the problem with this version of slavery is there's still people that come with the slavery. We need to get rid of the organic part of the slavery part, which is the people that are feeding this machine. We need to get rid of them and just get them away somewhere, because we can just have artificial machines come in and do all this stuff. And guess what? The artificial machines won't revolt, and they won't whine and complain and talk about how they want to have families and own a home and like go on vacation and see the world. Like, we can just get rid of all of that by introducing robots to like do all that. That's why the AI war is so important. That's why the mass population being able to have a voice and how this whole AI race goes is because it literally could be an existential threat to humanity. It could be a reason why your children or their children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, it could be the reason why they don't get to experience life on Earth the same way that you've experienced life on Earth ever again. That could be just completely taken off the table, and you could just never see this kind of life that we're all trying to build together. You could just never see that ever again. Because again, the owners, the people that own you, the stockholders, the property management companies, or the companies that own all the apartment complexes that you all now live in because you can't afford to buy your own home, the owners, like the idea that you are transferring wealth to them. They like that part because really that's what your life is designed for. You generate wealth because you do things, because you are a productive member of society. But guess what? You don't get to keep any of the wealth. You don't get to keep any of the stuff you generate, the work that you do for your employer, and you don't get to keep any of that. That gets transferred to the guy above you and the guy above that guy, and it just goes on forever and ever and ever until eventually you get to that owner group, right? Because they own everything. Everything about your life cost a gajillion dollars just to do it again the next day. That is why consumerism has worked for them up until this point. But again, problems in paradise, my dude. People are kind of unhappy with the way this has worked out for like 99% of us, even people as spoiled as myself, who happen to be in the best place to play this game, which is the United States of America, the American dream. How has that worked out? Who talks about the American dream anymore? I don't hear anybody talk about the American dream anymore. Do you hear anybody talk about the American dream anymore? I don't think you hear anybody talk about the American dream anymore. Why? Because it's dead. Because it's been dead for a while. It's Weekend at Bernie's with the American dream. And they're like, oh, look, American dream's still here. He's been dead for a while, my dude. The American dream, gone. Just, the American dream is no more. It's gone. It doesn't work. And guess what? Because of this, because of the thing that you're all watching, because of your phone screen, people are starting to be like, hey, they're talking to other people across the pond, and they're like, hey, things kind of suck over here. How are things for you? And they're like, actually, like, I don't want to like complain or anything, but like, actually, things kind of suck over here. Like, I mean, a lot of us are dying because we don't have clean water, and like, it's a thing, and like, we don't have any medicine, and like, also we have to like dig cobalt out of the ground with our bare hands while we have babies strapped to our backs. So like, it's kind of like not really like a super great situation right now. It'd kind of be great if we could be doing something else. And then the owners hear you saying that, and they're like, what? What'd they say? And then they get all upset because they're like, gosh darn it, the people. My neighbor. Like, oh my God, they're complaining again because they can't afford to have life-saving surgery. And so they are upset at us people, at us down. Remember, they're up, we're down, right? And so they're like, God, these people are so grody, my guy. But guess what? AI, artificial intelligence, replace people, make them go away. That's their hope. Their hope is to take AI, get rid of the people part, and put them in some cage somewhere so they can all like crap in the corner and like be annoying and like talk about like freedom and civil liberty. They can get all of us away, right? While they go have a party like they can all have like all this fun time and have a blast and like party. And then while we're all like in the Matrix, like we're all hooked up to the tubes and we're like, oh, what is it? Oh my God. And there's just pod after pod next to you of like your fellow man and woman and lady and person, like just all in pods next to you, and you guys are all living in a simulation. Last thing I'm going to say before I get out of here. This is just food for thought. Again, this is just food for thought. Okay, life is at stake, as you know it. Humanity, again, a Professor Zhang, the soul of humanity. We're having a war for the soul of humanity, okay? And something that I want you to think about, right? Think about the simulation hypothesis, right? This idea that like your whole life is this computer-generated landscape, and like it's so realistic in life, like that you actually don't know you're inside a computer game. Which, by the way, is kind of like again, it's like a concept of the Matrix movie, right? With Keanu Reeves, is like the whole like you think you're in reality, but like really you're not in reality. You're in like that pod thing, and like you're like hooked up, like your little like organism in a tank, right? What's what's that technology that's like everybody's been making big hoopla about lately? That's been like this big deal, and it's gonna like change the world, and we're all gonna. What's that thing Mark Zuckerberg's putting a lot of money into that he really cares about because he thinks the human civilization? Oh, virtual reality. Oh, that's right. That's so crazy. Oh, and you seen all those headlines about how like VR is getting like really scary good, and like how it's gonna be amazing, and it's gonna like we're all gonna like spend more time in VR than we do normal life? Is it? Isn't that kind of like how that Matrix movie thing happened? And isn't that kind of like the idea of simulation hypothesis, is that we all get stuck in these like big gooey tanks and then we just like live in a computer world while the people who own the computer world get to like, I don't know, trash the planet and like get out of here? Huh. Huh. Could that be, is that maybe why they're all so like obsessed with like going to space and getting out of here? I mean, like, don't get me wrong, like a torrid meteor shower stream and like an asteroid and like I'm aware there's existential threats beyond our control right now to like completely. I understand that the Earth could just go kablooey, like I get that, right? But other than like some catastrophic thing taking out all life on Earth, why do people seem so desperate? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. See what I did there? People. No, why do the Epstein class of America, why are they so obsessed with getting off the planet? What is that all about? Could it possibly be that they could then turn the earth into this like massive machine world where it's just organisms being bred in tank to like do all the like to generate the power that then they can like use to get the resources to then go to another place and like establish like a homeworld somewhere else away from all of us grody normie folk? Again, this is not like just food for thought, just things to think about when you take a deuce later. I just want you're taking a deuce, you're straining, you're having a hard time on porcelain, and I want you to be thinking about some of these things. We are at war for the soul of humanity. Like I said, heavy stuff and lots to think about, but like I said in the beginning in that X thread that I wrote, the universe has given you a mandate to do something good with the stardust in your bones. For all we know, we're the only consciousness, the only form of consciousness that we know of in the universe. It seems like the universe for billions of years has worked really, really hard to make us, right? To make consciousness possible. It'd be a darn shame if its first go of it makes a complete and absolute mess. That's why I feel like all of us have this like that thing that I was telling you, that thing that's calling me from wherever, right? I think we have a mandate to earn the stardust within your bones. God help us all. Good night.